Hello everyone, this is Clemmy Games and welcome to my top 10 indie games of 2016. Being the last day of the year, I feel that it is only appropriate that we take a look back at the year of releases and to commend and recommend fantastic indie games. Just a quick note that these are limited to games that I have spent some time with, and that there are many more great indie releases out there this year. Also, this list does not include games that are in early access, but do include titles that have officially launched out of early access. That being said, here are my top 10 indie games in no particular order. Out there somewhere is a platformer with a pretty simple mechanic of a teleportation gun. However, the innovative way that the game makes you use it, with various barriers that forces you to think through the puzzles in different ways, makes this platformer really enjoyable. The fantastic chiptune soundtrack is also a highlight of the game, and it is one which I often find myself listening to. Butcher, putting it simply, is 2D Doom, and has an art style which is reminiscent of the old games, but from another perspective. Everything about the fast-paced action feels so good, and I would say that the gameplay shares a design mentality with that of Hotline Miami, and that each try requires precision of execution, while the instant respawn does not punish the player but does encourage you to play just one more round. The game also has a fantastic risk-reward system in that killed enemies drop ammo, but these only survive on the ground for a limited amount of time, meaning that you cannot simply cower and snipe at enemies, but at some point do have to go in guns blazing, translating into an awesome run-and-gun experience. The Witness is a late entry into my list since I've only recently begun to play it, but in the time that I have spent with it, I really like the design of the puzzles and how the game makes me feel when I successfully complete a series of puzzles. At its core, it is a game about line puzzles and exploration, where you simply move from area to area solving the puzzles as you go along. However, the way that the game teaches you how to solve these puzzles is a stroke of genius, and when it does finally click in your mind, that is when the real fun begins. This is truly one of the great indies of this year and a must-play for any puzzle lovers. Rive is a shooter platformer which is immaculately well designed, since both the shooting and platforming feel great. It is a pretty challenging game, but the upgrade options and the hacking mechanics introduced all add to the overall progression and the fantastic feel of the shooting. It makes use of interesting control schemes which, while initially strange, did eventually grow on me, and is something which I ended up really liking. Slay Away Camp is a sliding puzzle game which has you playing as the serial killer in a slasher flick, and does do the whole aesthetic and presentation of that really well. Each level set is designed as an old school VCR tape, complete with cheesy blurb and equally stereotypical settings such as a summer camp or an amusement park. The puzzles are well designed and feature interesting mechanics such as pits and bodies of water which will kill you, bookcases to topple onto unsuspecting victims, and even cats that you must avoid harming. The hint system is non-intrusive, and unlocking various killers and gore packs or fatalities was a fun little thing to do on the side. It does not take itself too seriously, much like the campy movies, and in terms of presentation, it is one of the best games of the year. Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander is a game which learns and borrows systems from other games, but managed to fuse these systems together into a cohesive whole. You are put in charge of the starbase and have to fend off an incursion by an alien species. Along the way, you have to recruit captains for your ships, construct said ships, explore planets, set up a delivery network of drones, interact with various other alien species with the end goal of getting enough resources to seek revenge for humanity. Combat here plays out in a turn-based format much like a traditional JRPG, with the various skills being on cooldowns as you inflict status effects and then exploit said effects in order to maximize your damage. The developers have also been constantly supporting this game with various patches and tweaks and even new content, which makes Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander one of the great games of 2016. Stardew Valley is the indie game's PC response to Harvest Moon and is noted for its influence in expanding the eyes of gamers all over the world to the simple joys in life. as the player character, you leave a boring desk job and move to the countryside in order to begin a simple life on a plot of farmland that your grandfather has left behind. While the setup is identical to that of most Harvest Moon games, bringing this experience to PC enables an entire audience to appreciate and come to love this sort of game. Working at a desk job is something that most people can relate to, and the freedom of leaving that behind to experience something completely different is a longing that some people will have, which makes this even more endearing. There are crops to grow, animals to feed, and upgrades to your farm to be made. You can fish, chop trees, explore the mines, pursue your love interest in town, and even attend the various festivities that the town celebrates. The developer story behind this game is also fantastic, created by one Eric Barone, spending most of his spare time on this game over the course of 4 years while being a part-time theatre usher, creating everything from the art, sound, music, and coding. It is certainly an inspiring story, since it shows that if you pour your heart and soul into something, you can definitely find great success. Speaking of developer stories, Crashlands is a game with an interesting one to tell. You play as a space trucker who has crash landed on a planet and must scavenge and collect materials in order to craft some way off this planet. Think of Diablo meets Don't Starve, and you will get a good idea of what this game is about. I really enjoyed the sense of humor in this game, and the way that the objectives are structured always made me want to keep playing, as I just wanted to collect enough resources to craft the next item, which allows me to complete a quest, which then gives me a new objective to craft the next thing, which I then have to find more resources for. I like the base building and decoration part of the game, as well as the various pets that you can hatch and upgrade, which, combined with randomized equipment when crafting, made this such a compelling game. Polybridge is one of the more relaxing experiences that I have had in games this year due to its low poly art style and the calming music. In it, you have to build bridges to allow vehicles to pass from point A to point B, or point A to B to C sometimes, and that is basically it. Levels are set up to challenge you to build bridges that work at the lowest cost, and the various scenarios here are all really inventive and are fun puzzles in themselves. Also of note is that you have to learn and to figure out mechanics like hydraulics for your bridges, and while it may seem dry, the chill atmosphere created made this such a joy. Finally, Darkest Dungeon rounds up my list for 2016. It is a turn-based RPG with a pronounced sense of atmosphere, and is one of the best games to convey the hopelessness and despair of Lovecraftian horror. While a turn-based RPG at its core, the design of Darkest Dungeon is one which is so intricate and nuanced, since you have to manage the stress levels of your party members, as well as the various ailments and mental disorders that result from fighting truly grotesque creatures from your nightmares. While RNG does play a part here, the sense of dread for your characters that the game evokes from every trip into the dungeon or every attack from the enemy is truly something to behold. While there have been great examples of narrators in games, such as in Bastion or Thomas Was Alone, the narrator in Darkest Dungeon is really a critical part of its presentation, since the tone of voice and the words that he uses are second to none for this type of game. The art and the look of the game is also truly spectacular, and I really do like the design of the characters and enemies that you encounter. The boss fights are also on another level, and the misery that you feel when one of your heroes falls adds to the overall story arc of trying to beat back this overwhelming evil. There is an article on Game Informer titled Elder Gods in the Machine, which I shall link in the description box below, that discusses the design of Darkest Dungeon and how the works of Lovecraft have translated into games, and I do honestly believe that it is really well written and worth a read. So those are my top 10 indie games of 2016. Thank you all for watching. If you like, tell me about the indie games that have caught your attention this year in the comments section below. 2017 looks to be another interesting year in indie gaming, so please subscribe to my channel for all the latest and greatest in indie games. That will do it for this video. Wishing you a happy new year, and I will see you in the next video.